What we are going to see now is favorite tables of Richard Shaw. I think very interesting to follow this and see how he explains beautifully really the meaning of the Bible code that he shows.
Here are a few of my favorite tables that I'm going to show you, just because they're unique and interesting. We're not trying to offend anybody here with some of the content of these tables. They are very much centered around Israel, a lot of them. So I'm going to show you what we have. This was one that Rabbi Glazerson came up with. And it was basically about our film, and it comes out in the Torah codes. The codes will be distributed, and it has my name in there, basically in parallel rows and close together with small skips, which is pretty significant. Don't ask me why that's in there, but it is. It even has the correct year, 5775, which was 2015 when the film was released. It has Glazerson's name in. His first name is Matityahu. It's in there. Talks about the doctrine of Messiah. And in the plain text, near where this code sequence was found, it says, "Your eyes which see the deeds of God." I always thought that was kind of cool. This is a table from Art Levitt back when Saddam Hussein was captured and killed. What's interesting about this, to show you how such a tiny table can contain so much information, I'm going to bring it in stages for you so you can see this. Saddam will die. Saddam will die, and he was hanged. And you notice how tightly together these codes are. He was hanged like his brother, and the like his brother is intertwined with the word hanged. It's pretty amazing. George Norrie, who is the host of Coast to Coast AM, we did some tables for him that were pretty amazing. And Professor Rips did this one, several tables that were done over almost a 3-week period. This one really is quite phenomenal because it really talks about George Norrie. If you've ever listened to Coast AM, you know it's all about UFOs and the paranormal and all of that, and yet George is very level-headed about it. And what's interesting is that Professor Rips found a whole sentence about George using George's name. It says, "Loves the paranormal, but clear-cut." That's basically George Norrie. I know George personally, and that's the way he is, very clear-cut about it. Crossing that sentence is the word radio, and then parallel to it is the word broadcaster, and Norrie is in green. I mean, it's quite amazing. The next table is, the reason I'm putting it up here is because everything was slanted at the same level and repeated in the codes and in the plain text besides. So it was very hard to ignore this, even though it's not the most popular tables for liberals. Basically, it has the words Hillary and Obama intertwined at the same angle. It says, "What is their heart?" It says, United States. The United States has been defiled. And then it says, "The abomination unto the Lord," in the Torah codes in red at the same angle, in the same sentence. Now, at the bottom of this table, in black with yellow letters, it says, "An abomination unto the Lord thy God," which is actually in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 17, verse 1, which basically is the same thing that the codes say in this same passage. You can study the rest for yourself, but I mean, as crazy as this table is, I felt that it was significant because you don't see tables like this every day. This is a really recent table. I mean, this one's like kind of shouting at us. It has everybody's name that's been involved in the Torah codes in some way in one sentence. It's a little messy, but basically it says Matityahu, which is Rabbi Glazerson's first name, code there at the bottom, the code, 5779, which is the year 2019, this year. 5736 is the year where the codes were first discovered by Professor Rips. Rips is right under it. Code of Messiah, and then it has my name, Richard, and then my company name, Pinlight, parallel at the same angle. I mean, don't ask me how that happened. The word faith and in the Torah and from heaven and Doron. Doron Witztum is one of the code researchers that helped write the software. I mean, all this stuff is in this one table. Here's another one kind of like that. This one I like a lot. This was done by Rabbi Glazerson. He did it for me. I didn't ask him to do it, but he did this and gave it to me. It says the code of Messiah and Pinlight with the word ephod just above it. We think that the ephod might have been a computer. It's very possible because of the lights that would come off and on to answer questions that it was some kind of very high-tech device. The keywords in the middle say Torah code, and it has the years, 5736. That was the year that the code was discovered, and then 5775 was the year a film came out. And then down in the plain text it says, "Will show to the world the deeds of God." That's kind of a cool table. To show how the plain text works with actual text, this is one of my favorite tables. This is about the Twin Towers. It says at the top of the page, Twins, Towers, Massacre, September 11th, the terror attack. And then right beneath all of that cluster of codes, highlighted, it says, "And fell from the people this day about 3,000 men." And if I remember right, it was like 2,997 people died that day, and that's what the scripture said 3,300 years ago. So that's an incredible table. This is another one. In Jewish tradition, the word Samael, which is in this, it's the desolation of God or the left hand. So this is kind of a problem that the left has, always going against things. In this table is the word Kavanaugh and blame, hatred, and a feminine plot, which we pretty much discovered that was the case. Most of the women that said that Kavanaugh abused them have recanted. It was a feminine plot to try to not get him into his position as Supreme Court Justice. This is another one. This was found by Professor Herlick and Rabbi Glazerson. This was when Breitbart died in 5772, which is 2012. Comes up in the codes, was poisoned on the 1st of March and will be killed. Indeed, that's what most people believe happened to him. Everybody was concerned with 2012. We were studying that 2012 codes way back in 2009. And what I thought was interesting about this, Rabbi Glazerson found this table. The keywords, the axis keywords are change in the world. And it says on the 10th of Tevet, which is December 22nd, 2013. So basically, there's some overlap here of dates because in the Hebrew calendar, 2013, you're already in 2013 in the month of December. Not for us, but for them you are. So indeed, we've had a lot of changes that have happened since 2012. The world has changed. This is probably Professor Rip's most famous table. He looked this up right after the Twin Towers attack. It's the Twin Towers airplane attack. Those letters came up all in chapter 20 of the book of Numbers in just a very small table, an amazingly small table. And the chances for this to come up are millions to one. All of those words would be so tightly configured in just one chapter.
But when we came to chapter 20, of this book. Then all of them suddenly appear in one place. This shows very clearly how everything concentrated in one single place.
All right, so that is basically showing that this, what we did, I asked Professor Herlick if he could do some monkey text for me, or essentially to see if he could find the same words that Professor Rips did in another text. And sure enough, he did. But as you can see, here's the first example, 4,488 letters in it. And that's really just kind of random and doesn't mean anything. It's insignificant. In Professor Ripp's original table, the whole table was only 234 letters. Here's another one that we discovered. This was in a table that ended up having 7,772 letters. It had all of the same names, but the skips were enormous. So it's basically forcing a table to say what Professor Rips found mostly in the book of Numbers. This is a Planet X table. If you know anything about Planet X, there is this idea that Planet X Nibiru is going to appear. We don't know when, but the Torah codes seem to predict it. And in Jewish mystical texts, it talks about Planet X quite a bit, and there's a lot of people studying it right now. No one's seen it yet, but we think that it might have had something to do with the flood of Noah and other things that happened through history. There's researchers like Marshall Masters and also Gil Broussard have done insane amounts of work studying this and comparing it to historical references. But what's interesting about this, it says, in the end of days, Nibiru, it has it all spelled out in very tight form, a warning in 5776. A lot of people were talking about Planet X in 2016, and basically a threat. Here's another one, a little bit different. But in the actual plain text, it says, I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star will come out of Jacob. A scepter will rise out of Israel. And this is out of Breaking Israel News. After 40 days, when the pillar rises from earth to heaven in the eyes of the whole world, and the Messiah has appeared, a star will rise up on the east, blazing in all colors, and 7 other stars will surround that star, and they will wage war on it. Now, this is basically in Jewish mystical texts. And there was a guy who tried to claim that he was the Messiah 400 years ago, and because this planet didn't appear, they didn't believe him. What's interesting, in the New Testament, Jesus says that there will be a sign of the coming of the Son of Man, and then the Son of Man comes. Some people believe that that sign is an astronomical sign. Here is that scripture in Matthew 24. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. Did that sound like some kind of major astronomical event? And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory.